Hello, this is Dr. Mercola, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about free radicals. Now, just what exactly is a free radical? Well, it's a molecule that essentially has an unpaired electron. And typically this, in a human biological systems, it's related to oxygen. And when you have an oxygen that's essentially a free radical, it can cause lots of problems because it can cause serious damage in most of your tissues. Specifically, your DNA or your genetic material can be damaged, and then you have a flaw in your reproductive system so that generating healthy tissue becomes a challenge. So, in fact, one of the most common and the prevailing theory of aging happens to be related to free radical damage. So with the belief and understanding is that if we can optimize our defense system against free radicals, that we would be able to extend our lifespan somewhat. So this seems to have been proven out in many animals' experiments. However, it's important to understand that we don't want to necessarily eliminate all free radicals because if we did that, it would probably be highly counterproductive because they are important in many of the biological processes that we have. So what are ways that you can do that naturally? Well, one of the best ways to do that is with the foods that you eat. So that if you can identify high quality vegetables, fruits, seeds, herbs that are loaded with these antioxidants, these natural antioxidants. And typically, the rules that you want to follow is to have them fresh. The fresher, the better. Ideally organic, because many of the pesticides are going to be counterproductive. They're going to cause their own complications. And they're also, and if they're not organic, they're going to be grown many times with artificial or synthetic fertilizers, which are not going to nourish the plants the way they need to produce all the important phytonutrients. And these phytonutrients are crucial because especially if you have a wide variety of vegetables and fruits and herbs and such, they'll complement each other and really provide the balance that you need. So making sure that you're eating the right types of food, and when you do get them organically, ideally you want to make sure that it's locally grown if at all possible, because that's going to be ideal for not only you but also for the environment. So secondarily, you can exercise. Exercise is kind of a dual-edged sword because without exercise, of course, you're going to rapidly degenerate. So we all need exercise. I believe it's virtually impossible to achieve optimal health without exercise. But if you exercise too much, and specifically if you do too much aerobic type exercise, you're going to generate large amounts of these free radicals. And you can see evidence of what happens to this in many of the very highly competitive endurance athletes, such as Lance Armstrong and some of the distance runners, long distance runners. You can see that they've come down with cancers and other health complications as a result of most likely an excess of uncontrolled free radical damage. So it's wise to do exercise, but you want to be careful. And I think ideally you might, the combination of these strategies to limit the damage that the free radicals do is really a wise strategy. Now, one of the other things that you can do from a supplement perspective is somewhat interesting. About 7 years ago, I first became aware of a really intriguing and novel supplement called Resveratrol. And if you search on my site, but the search engine box at the top of every page, and type that in, you'll see I first posted articles on that about 7 years ago. And there's been enormous amounts of evidence since then and studies that have been published supporting the use of resveratrol as a very effective and profoundly powerful antioxidant. So the question then becomes, how do you obtain resveratrol? Well, the most common, and probably the most common, but one of the best sources of it would be grapes. In fact, the resveratrol content in wine is believed to provide some of the benefits we see in some of the studies that suggest that wine is beneficial. So that would be from the grape skins and the seeds. And now there's a number of different species of grapes, and it appears that the species that has the most potent form and the highest concentration of resveratrol is the muscadine grapes. Now the muscadine grapes are not a common species, so they're not easy to find, but so that would be one option. You could find the muscadine grapes and eat them, and eat the seeds and the grape skins because those have the highest concentration of the resveratrol. However, that's going to be somewhat of a challenge, as I said, because they're somewhat difficult to find, and many people don't like the bitter taste of the seeds. So it seems to be a more effective and certainly efficient and simpler way to do this would be to find a high-quality supplement that was actually using these muscadine grapes and processing them in a way that is optimizing them to preserve their full biopotency. And that actually seems to me a reasonable solution. And with respect to being effective, it may work, but there's a benefit to using whole herbs or whole plant material, because there's many other micro-accessory nutrients that are in the whole plant material that can benefit and work synergistically with what we believe is the isolate ingredient. So I'd be a little bit careful in choosing preparations that just have these isolates, which scientists believe to cause a benefit. And while it may be useful, you have to be somewhat cautious about that. So personally, I believe the evidence is very compelling and convincing, so much so that I actually had our team put together a resveratrol supplement called Purple Defense, and I believe it's really useful, so much so that I take it myself on a daily basis, and I find it particularly helpful to help combat some of the free radical challenges that are generated from exercise. So I think it's a wise strategy to use, especially if you're going to be exercising. As most everyone knows, that exercise is really a crucial component to staying healthy. So it's this combination of these natural lifestyle changes that you can implement to optimize and make sure that you're doing everything you can to prevent chronic degenerative diseases, so that you don't have to suffer needlessly and be exposed to limited choices of taking potentially dangerous drugs and surgical interventions to treat symptoms that could have been easily prevented by following a more natural lifestyle course. So hopefully this information is useful, and you or your family might find some benefit to it to help you take control of your health.